You're probably familiar with what a blockchain address looks like. If not, here are two of them. Can you tell if they're the same? Tricky, huh? Such a small difference in two addresses, but it can lead to big problems. Today, we're talking about a sneaky but very common scam in the world of crypto: address poisoning. This is a topic everyone should be familiar with, so let's dive in. What is address poisoning? In its most basic form, address poisoning is a sneaky tactic used by scammers to trick you into sending your cryptocurrency to the wrong address. Imagine this. You're sending funds to a friend or transferring them to your own account. Now, you've sent funds to this address before, so you copy it from your transaction history, paste it as your receiving address, and hit confirm. Nothing shows up. Minutes pass, then hours, then days. Your funds are gone. What's happened here is that somewhere along the way, you accidentally copied a scam address and sent funds to it. Before we get into exactly how this works, it's important to understand that wallet addresses are typically quite long, which means they're difficult to memorize. Addresses are comprised of hexadecimal characters, which is just a fancy word that means they use a combination of numbers mixed in with the first 6 letters of the alphabet. So let's take a look at how the process of address poisoning works. In most cases, people rely on copying and pasting addresses, which is the method that scammers typically exploit. Here's what a typical scenario looks like. The first thing that happens is you send a transaction to a legitimate address. Let's use the one from earlier as an example. Pretty easy so far. The next thing that happens is that while you're sending normal payments back and forth, a scammer is monitoring the entire blockchain for active addresses and then using a program to create similar addresses. Odds are, they have no idea who you are. They probably don't know your name. They don't know your phone number. They just see that an address on the blockchain is making transactions. So they mimic the address by creating what's called a vanity address, which is basically just a custom wallet address that looks similar to the one being monitored. Since all transactions are publicly available on the blockchain, whether or not they're tied to an identity, scammers can choose to target anything that shows up there. Next, if you're chosen as the target, they'll send you a tiny transaction from their fake address, making it look like a normal address inside your transaction history. And I say tiny because there are two different versions of this step. Either the scammer sends a zero-value transaction, which still requires a small fee to spend, or they just send dust, which is an incredibly small amount of crypto, like fractions of a cent. The reason I point out the differences is because our very own Trezor Suite app blurs out zero-value transactions. This is a security feature we implemented to help combat address poisoning. We don't blur out transactions with dust, however, because the value is technically above zero. This is a way scammers can get around our blurring feature, but it's obviously much more expensive, and therefore less common, if they're attempting to do this for hundreds or thousands of different addresses. Whichever method a scammer chooses, this is how a fake address ends up in your transaction history. And what they hope is that you don't notice. So at this point, the scam relies on you going into your transaction history thinking that you're copying an address you've used previously. Since both addresses look so similar, it's very easy to accidentally copy the scammer's address when sending money. That's it. If you instead take the time to copy the correct address straight from the source, like an exchange or directly from a friend, there's virtually no risk of falling prey to this scam. If you only take one thing away from this video, let it be that you should never copy addresses out of your transaction history. Doing so is just asking to send your funds to the wrong place. Another thing to quickly note is something most people don't know. Some cryptocurrencies allow you to send zero-value transactions from a crypto wallet without actually having access to it. Ethereum and Solana are both examples of networks where this is possible. And because of that, they're two of the networks where this scam is most common. This means that your transaction history can potentially be poisoned with both incoming and outgoing transactions. So don't walk away from this video thinking that it only applies in one direction. And that's how address poisoning works. But we still need to ask ourselves one more important question. How do we protect ourselves? It isn't possible to prevent scammers from sending transactions to your public address on a blockchain. Just like if someone knows your home address in real life, you can't prevent mail from being sent to it. But you can prevent yourself from becoming victim to an address poisoning scam by following a few key steps. Like we said earlier, avoid copying addresses from your transaction history. This one step pretty much guarantees you won't become a victim of address poisoning. Whether it's in Trezor Suite or a Block Explorer, copying from your transaction history is an unnecessary risk to your crypto holdings. This applies not only to the addresses of others that you might be sending funds to, but also your own address, such as when moving funds from a centralized exchange to your own Trezor device. Always double-check addresses. This is crucial for all transactions, but especially if you're sending a significant amount. The only way to ensure safety is to check each character of an address. Use a hardware wallet such as a Trezor. A Trezor hardware wallet requires you to confirm the address on the device itself, which adds an extra layer of security. And a word of warning, be careful if you choose to send a test transaction first. A popular method for making sure you're sending crypto to the correct address is to first send a small amount. This is precisely the type of scenario where people are tempted to copy an address from their transaction history. No, don't do it. The exact moment a scam address enters your transaction history is immediately after a test transaction like this, because typically it's a bot that inserts it there. If you're sending a larger amount and you want to send a test transaction first, that part is fine. Just don't go into your transaction history afterward to try and copy it again. Address poisoning may not be as well known as other scams, but it can still lead to significant losses if you're unaware of it. By staying vigilant and following these tips, you can protect your crypto from falling into the hands of scammers. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video.